the idea of time travel in the platform and the ability now to aggregate multiple streams of data, basically. And you think about, there's an old phrase about, data's the new oil kind of function, right? But the problem with oil, until you refine it, it's really unusable. And the same thing exists in what we're doing, right? The one thing that applications like we do, one thing we're really good at is creating data, and lots of it. And there's this sometimes a mental block that comes around when people get involved in reality capture. They're like, oh, what am I supposed to do with all this data, right? How do I use it? I can barely, it's filling up my hard drive kind of function. And there's this fear that begins to creep. And so when you think about the ability now to have multiple data streams aggregated to we have announced a new platform this week called Sphere XG, which is going to be a tool to allow us to amalgamate all that data structure into a singular platform, right? So that, yes, I can see my point clouds. Yes, I can see my 360 photos. Yes, I can see my mobile data. And not only can I time warp between two 360 photos, I could literally throw up a LiDAR scan. I use the example sometimes like I'm a GC, I'm on the job, and not everybody scans every week. They'll scan once a month, right? And depending on their assets and how many assets they have available to them, they might scan every 2 months, at points of inflection during the construction process. Well, the guy out there with 360 cameras, he's out there, and he's just banging it out. And because he's got to use it for progress tracking. And then all of a sudden it's bill week comes around, and we all have our schedule of values we have to fight about. And so I go to you and I say, hey, Jeff, I need you to go capture area A because I got to turn in my schedule of values to Rob because Rob's got to turn his schedule of values into Pat. And if I don't give our stuff to Rob doesn't get the Pat, then none of us get paid. So do me a favor, take your camera, go out to area A so I can see what's going on, at least have some type of progress tracking function. But while you're there, could you do area B and C? So now I'm sitting back thinking, okay, I have an immediate access to the data. I go out and I do video mode on B and C, so I have points of inflection that I can come back to, next week or whatever the case may be. But then I come back with my scanner in 2 months. But in that period of time, the mechanical systems began to populate vertically throughout the floor, in between all the open studs from when the last time I collected it. Then the drywaller shows up on site in that 2 month period. And next thing I know, he's got 40 guys out there on stilts, and they're throwing up drywall like it's going out of style because they're getting paid by the square foot. And when I come back to scan, I can't see anything anymore. Everything's already closed in. And they give me a change order and they say, hey, go punch a hole in that wall. But I don't know what's in the wall now. But I could bring up my scan data from a month ago, and I can layer it right next to that photo that was just taken last week because he had to do the schedule of values. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, well, there's some vertical systems in there. There's a wastewater line. They got hot and cold water going through up there. I can pull the measurements now out of the scan data and use the 360 photo to provide clarity to the information that I can't see. And so when you think about why would somebody use laser scanning and that's just it. Laser scanning provides a level of accuracy that I can be comfortable and accurate in a relationship that I'm going to get the appropriate measurements. So if I use laser scanning and mobile data anytime I need to measure something, but imagery provides a sense of clarity potentially that is missed. And I think that's where that marriage of the various applications begins to compound and creates an ecosystem that is very consumable.
Yeah, it's consumable and it's really usable. We used to go back to the old Rob McKinney days and when Rob was in safety and quality, and he kept saying, just imagine all the times that he sat there with some sort of cutting device going, do we need to cut into this wall here? But I'm just really not sure I should be doing this. What is going to happen? Or, if I put this in and he was like, can I just get something that can transport me back so I know what's on the other side of this drywall? And to see it really come to fruition with the combination of these things, though, because like you said, it was one thing for us to know there was or wasn't something behind the pipe, but now we can measure. And so we have the ability to go, okay, it might not be in a drywall, but especially when you're talking about concrete, if you've got to for some reason go back or punch a hole in concrete, to know where you're going to hit a utility or where you might hit something, where you might mess up something that's already, oh man, that is so valuable in a use case. And we'd been talking about it forever. And it's really now not just coming together in a couple of stitched pieces. You announced right there that it's called Sphere XG, right?
It's a cloud-based collaboration tool. And it is structured in such a way, I'll be honest, it is structured in such a way that it doesn't necessarily have to be our data. What I mean by that is if you can, there are data structures that are rather ubiquitous throughout the industry. E57, for example, LAZs, right? And it's kind of like the DXF file that everybody exchanges within the various BIM worlds when they're going between platforms. And so if you can give us an E57 data, so let's say you're a GC and you're out using a third-party provider to provide your heavy lifting on your scans, right? You're doing your own scan stuff just in areas of concern, but for the heavy lift, you're outsourcing it. They probably should be using Faro scanners, but it's a distinct possibility they might not. They could be using something else. But if they can provide an E57 file, we now still have the ability to ensure that they have the capabilities to use this tool as well. And, I always sometimes talk about the idea that, everybody wants people to live in their ecosystem, and I understand it, right? Developers do. But as an organization, as an industry, we have to be able to share data efficiently across multiple platforms and not just ours. And if the industry is truly going to move, it's like the little boy blue in the dike, right? Not everybody, sooner or later, you got to pull your finger out, and then you realize that everybody's standing around trying to hold back the exact same problem.